Hey, everybody. Good morning. I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you are on the lifeboat. Welcome. The So I got my first taste of monsoons last night. Boy, after I was done uh, with the lifeboat, I went outside, right, and it damaged the roof. I had been cutting down all of these brush kind of stuff that grows around cactuses and grows in sort of no man's land where there's nothing going on in the desert. And I had 12 garbage bags of this stuff. And these are the huge, like made for outdoor dealing with stuff garbage bags. And there's a dozen of them jammed completely to the top. Those bad boys, each one of them's got to weigh 25 pounds, right? Just of straw. And like what the Three Little Pigs would have made their house out of. Like I got 12 bags of that. And there were bags 500 yards from my house, empty. The wind just picked these things up, threw them around like they were, nothing. Threw them around like they were nothing and emptied them and made a very serious mess. And then I had to go and deal with the pool where there was all kinds of incredible stuff floating and getting thrashed about in the pool as well. It was what a night. I'm glad that Annette says no rain in this part. Well, I am sorry for you. I really am, because as nasty as that storm was, boy, did it lower the temperature. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is what I do um, when I have a 5 o'clock show. Normally, I don't plan the show the night before unless something happens that you know needs to be addressed, or something that really grabs my attention or whatever. I don't plan the show the night before. I wake up in the morning and I do my info dump. And when I start getting all of the stuff out of my brain from the night before, very often there's a thought that comes to mind. And very often those thoughts come back from, or come to me from emails, questions, things of that nature. I have probably 25 or 30 people that have contacted me in the last week that I have never spoken to before. So, really super busy with all of the people that are reaching out to me currently. And the vast majority, of course, want to get sober. Now, over the weekend, because of the whole withdrawal thing, after Saturday night boat, I did not stand upright again until basically you saw me. I was laying down. I didn't take any phone calls. I didn't make any phone calls. I didn't answer any emails. I didn't do anything for almost a day and a half, right? Almost a day and a half. And anyway, so when I started to unpack from all of that, and I started going through all of Balake, good to see you. So once I started unpacking all of that and going through all of this, there's a recurring theme in the 2 years that the lifeboat has been open, and it'll be 2 years in a couple of weeks. But in the 2 years that the lifeboat has been doing its thing, there's a recurring theme that I get more often than anything in requests from people. And it's super, super. By the way, we need 2 people to hit 5,000. Just thought I'd throw that out there. We are only 2 people away from 5,000 subscribers, which people, this little experiment channel, I'm not one of those people that saw it coming at all. I just hoped that a couple of people would get together and support one another, and have the ability to do it openly without, and sharing without feeling vulnerable, having people staring at you or any of those things. You know what I mean? It was just an experiment, and it went oh so well. What's hanging on the exit sign? That is a hat that I wore. Thank you, Lisa. It's really everybody here. I did. I spoke, but other than that, everybody else, the word of mouth and sharing videos and hitting like and leaving comments and welcoming every single person that steps onto the deck. The reason that the lifeboat is at 5,000 people has so little to do with me. it's really, I'm not being modest or anything else. I am the mayor of Realville. And what makes this channel what it is You could replace the captain, but you couldn't replace the crew. This is just an incredible group of people, and I have been, I mean, massively blessed from the very opening salvo of the channel before it was even the lifeboat. The people who showed up in the very beginning, by the grace of God, are just amazing human beings that have drawn in so many others and made friendships that literally have changed lives and certainly have changed mine, right, across the board. So anyway, if you saw the recurring theme that comes up all the time, it doesn't really matter whether or not the person is sober, whether or not it is someone who's coming here in a support kind of a situation, because we have a lot of people that come to the lifeboat because they have a loved one who's on drugs. They're not trying to get sober. They're trying to understand why their loved one can't. And I think that that's a service that the lifeboat does. That's probably one of the most important things that we do. If we can communicate to normies exactly what's going on with their loved ones, very often we can save relationships, and there are other real benefits that come out of it. But the overall theme constantly is people just want to be happy. People just want to be happy. I deal with people every single day, without exaggeration. Every single day, I get emails from people who have been sober for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and they just aren't happy. They didn't get the happiness that they built up in their head. And we do that, right? We've talked about this so many times, but sobriety is this wizard. It's this magic everything that we build it up to be for so long, right? For years, it's if I could just quit drinking, man, my relationships would be back to normal. I would be making the money that I should be making at work. If I could just quit doing dope, this would happen. If I could just quit doing this would happen. And we build this up in such a way that we really do come to believe that if we can just get rid of that buzz, if we could just stop getting high, then everything in life is going to be groovy. We're not going to have any other problems. And sadly, that's just not the case, is it? So you quit and the bills still keep coming in. You quit and you still have arguments with your ex-wife, and custody battles still go on, and all of the things that we have to deal with. Your health, right? You have a lot of us are just not in great shape physically, or not in as good a shape physically as we used to be. Yes, Squirrel is here. She's also hell on wheels. Last night got Squirrel a little bit jumpy. I don't think she slept very well. The monsoon really got her attention. The noise that the hail was making, bouncing off of the skylights, was absolutely nothing short of amazing. So this happiness thing, there's how many books are going to be released today, just today, that are about how to live a happy life, what you can do to 6 days to happiness, 5 keys to happiness, 10 10 happiest places on planet Earth. The goal of being happy makes a lot of sense, right? It's a lot more fun to feel good than it is to feel bad. And happiness, there's nothing wrong with aspiring to happiness. However, it's I think we could have called this particular show a lot of different things, but because everybody always asks about just wanting to be happy without drugs, I thought this would be a fairly decent title. In 2016, I found myself in federal prison. I was there for selling guns, some assault rifles, and some other things that I obtained illegally. I sold to an undercover. I sold it to a guy, but he was wearing a wire and working for the FBI. Absolutely a bizarre case, but it has not. The point is, I was in federal prison, and if there are a lot of people that kind of understand what emotions can do to a room of people, or in the case of prison, to a city, right? You've got a city of about, I don't want her to turn off the computer. I would let her do her normal run around thing, but I've got hotkeys turned on today. So when you're incarcerated, you're in a little city of men, right, that are angry. Every single one of these men are angry and are full of hate. I shouldn't say everyone because that's simply not the truth, but a ton of them are just full of hate. And the overall prevailing attitude in a men's prison is hate. There's also a good deal of fear, and it gets to a point where you can feel it, and it affects who you are and how you are. Absolutely across the board, it affects every aspect of your life. And I was deep in that life. I was in prison, and I was getting high every day. It was My lifestyle hadn't changed much from the street. I was breaking the law. I was doing all the things that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And the only important part was that I continued to feed my drug habit. And that's what was going on in my life in 2016. Um, and I've told everyone the story many times of how I met Q and how the two of us sort of linked up, and he said some funny things. And the next thing you know, he's helping me on this whole concept of sobriety. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in a federal prison. I'm 46 years old. My life is just shit. I mean, to be really honest, you're in a federal prison at 46 years old, and it is your third time in prison. There is a feeling that that life's over. There's really nowhere to go. And right about that time, I got the divorce papers from my wife. And I got a diagnosis about my brain that was distressing. And the people in the federal prison system did a very poor job with their diagnosis and a very poor job with their predictions. If any of them were right, I would have already been dead. And they really played it up, and so I got this end of life kind of a diagnosis from the people in the BOP. And so I've never been in I find myself in a position where uh, I don't think I've ever been lower. My wife just walked out of my life. I I'm sick, viciously sick, and they just tell me that I have this spot on my brain and that I'm not going to be here very long. And at the end, I'm not going to know who I am, who the people around me are. They just give me this horrific diagnosis, and I'm in probably the worst. This is the worst spot of my life up to this point, and I'm not facing this. Surrounded by people that love me. I was facing this surrounded by hate on all angles, everywhere you look, nothing but hate. When somebody came and talked to me about the concepts of things like happiness and things like these things that I didn't even have the balls to think about in prison. I really didn't. It didn't make any sense to dwell on crap like that. You just wanted 24 hours to go, and you wanted it to go really quickly, and you wanted that to keep happening until you could walk out that door. And it was the only freaking thing that that mattered at that point. And when I met Q, you have to realize, people, that number one, I'm not racist in any way. And I never have been. I've just never been that kid. It wasn't how we were raised. My parents were just never those people at all. But when you're in a federal prison and you're a white dude, you hang out with white dudes like exclusively. It's structured. It's the way it's done. So when someone comes up and basically tells me that they can help turn my life around and quickly, time passages. Don't know that I've ever said hello to you, time passages, but isn't that a great Cat Stevens song? I think it is. If I'm not mistaken, it's a really great song by Cat Stevens. Welcome to the Lifeboat. We're glad that you're here. Time passages. It is a song by Cat Stevens. Okay, so there's a built-in amount of danger in just hanging out with this cat. Like just sitting down at a table in the library side by side and having a conversation is a dangerous thing. Hold that thought. Library, me, Q. I may have to back up and ask you about that. But you know what? Scoob, full of hope, says, Scooby with the doobie, I know and understand where you are, my sweet girl. You must find a new way forward. Scooby, there are a lot of people on this channel that care about you greatly. Truthfully, there are so many people on this boat that care about you. I know individuals on this boat who have said to me that that they're praying for you every day. You know, Scoob says, you know, it's sad when you lived better as an abused addict than you do sober and in a better home. So I've learned nothing is going to change. Scoob, I don't want to bum you out. I really don't. But this is kind of a key example because we're talking about happiness and we're talking about all of that. And so, Scoob, this is where I was in 2016. My head was exactly where Scooby's is right now. Right, I'm laying there in a cell going, it can't get worse than this, and it's certainly not going to get any better. I'm going to be dead in 7 to 8 years. Like, this was the crock of crap that they told me, but I was going to be dead in 7 to 8 years. The last 2 or 3 of them unable to speak. It was really looking like it was going to be a race to see whether I lost my ability for cognitive thought prior to walking out of prison. I mean, that's really what we were looking at. My diagnosis and the end of my sentence were running kind of parallel. There was no reason to even try to get happy, really. It just seemed like a complete and utter waste of time. And then I met this dude that the reason I was willing to risk my butt to even talk to this guy. Scooby, I would say, please listen very carefully to Full of Hope. Full of Hope is a individual with a tremendous amount of wisdom. I know this. And I would absolutely suggest listening. And you know what? This is for Scoob. Scoob, you are always in my thoughts and prayers, literally always. But you are today as well. The reason I was willing to take a risk and sit next to this guy, the reason I was willing to take a risk, and I'm not talking about a risk of people treating me poorly. I'm talking about a risk of somebody sticking a metal steel object into my body for kicking it with a black guy, because that's really about the level of a federal penitentiary. You're just not allowed to do what we were talking about doing. But I was so tired of being a drug addict, and more importantly, this black dude looked happy. And not the kind of fake happy that you see in there with dudes who just literally crack jokes from the time they wake up until the time they go to bed. This was a guy that could sit and have introspective conversations or sit down and read or whatever. But every time I saw him, I never saw him unhappy. And I remember saying to somebody, hey, how long has that guy got? How much time did they give him? And the dude was like, oh, no, he got the album, as in the long play, the LP. He said he got an album. He's not getting out. And I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, this guy, he's never going to have a girlfriend. Like, he went to prison so young that he's not going to experience anything in life. How can this guy be happy? Right? How can this dude be happy? It made absolutely no sense to me. It really didn't. And I started to spend a lot of time with him and really getting to know him. And I remember saying to him, I don't understand how you can be happy. I truthfully don't understand how you can be happy where you are. Hey, Scoob, take a couple of deep breaths, hon. Scooby, take some deep, deep breaths. Okay? Deep ones, Scoob, all the way in. Slow, hold it for a few seconds, then exhale it slow and do it again, Scoob. Count to about 10 of them. 10 deep breaths. What starts to happen when you're in the mode that you're in right now is that your brain starts to freak out. Your brain starts thinking about all of the other times it freaked out, and it starts wondering what could be causing all of the things happening right now to you. And it starts going down the checklist. Well, there was that time that the car almost hit her. We freaked out that time. There was the time that this happened. There was the time that, and those memories will bring on the same kind of anxiety that you felt in some of the worst situations in your life. You've got to tell your brain right now that it really is not that bad, and that what's going on is not that big a deal. And if you can communicate that to your brain through some deep breaths and some relaxed, breathing and mindfulness, if we can sort of get you back away from the edge there, so to speak, Scoob, because this is these things tend to spiral and get worse. There's a lot of people here who care very deeply about you, Scoob. Do me a favor, keep your chin up, take a deep breath. Scoob, you've come an incredible distance since coming on the lifeboat, and sadly, we're the last people to see anything that happens to us, if that makes sense. Other people can see changes in us far quicker than you can. And I have spent a lot of time communicating with Scoob. She and I have been texting now for probably a year, but and Scoob's had a tough year. There's no question, Scoob. This has been a hard year. We're going to experience this throughout life. And really, in many ways, Scooby, this is just what I'm talking about. And you know what, Scoob? Deep breath. Yeah, breathe in the good, blow out the bad. Who said that? I absolutely dig that. Thank you, Annette. Literally. Free legless parrot. No perches necessary. But I'm bumped. That's fantastic. Hey, Scooby, I'd be willing to bet there'll be somebody ready to converse with you by the time the lifeboat is over. There are people here that care deeply for you, hon. You have a huge group of people that care deeply for you. So I came to realize that there are people who get end-of-life diagnoses and with no reason whatsoever continue to serve others until the day they die, right? People that have, 5 months to live or 6 months to live, and they're out every day trying to make the earth a better place, the earth that they're leaving. What is it that drives some people to be happy and some people don't have the ability to? And the long and the short of it, people, is that it's a decision. And I know that this is hard to wrap your brain around, and you're probably pissed off at me saying it, because I was really angry when this concept was explained to me. And in the time that I've been doing the lifeboat, man, there's 1,000 hours of me talking right on film on this damn channel. And the number of times that I've done the Choose Happiness shows, I might have 3 or 4 hours of all of that into this. This is a subject that I dance around, and I try not to. Let me rephrase, because I just got completely bamboozled. It's a phrase that pisses people off because it sounds so easy, doesn't it? And it's not. It's not. Choosing to be happy is an easy thing. Following through to actually make yourself happy becomes a difficult process, at least in the beginning. It really does. It really does. It becomes a difficult process. The simplest way that I can put this, because I've tried on other shows to explain, and we can talk about, having a, setting yourself up with an attitude of gratitude, right? Focusing on positive aspects of your life and things like that, right? These are the 5 kind of generic, what you're going to hear from anyone who is trying to explain the concept of choosing happiness. Positive relationships. You surround yourself with supportive and positive people who uplift and encourage you. Mindfulness practice, being in the present moment, reducing stress and promoting a greater sense of contentment. Pursue passions. This is absolutely huge. Engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Pursuing your interests and hobbies. Absolutely key. The last one is self-care. I want to talk about pursuing passions. I got an email from somebody last night, and I don't, you know how I feel about, hold on a second. You know how I feel about confidentiality. So but I got an email from somebody, and the person encountered something the other day, and it doesn't matter what, but this individual said that once this happened, uh, it took away all want. All of the want in his body was removed. This is an addict. This is somebody that needs a substance every day. Put your substance of choice in there. Alcohol. It doesn't. I do not know how to be selfish. No recovering addict knows how to be selfish. Mind my blues. We get walked on. As recovering addicts, we get the crap kicked out of us. We have a level of guilt from the things that we did when we were in the life, and we carry that into our new life, and we get very, very poor grades for saying no. We get very, very poor grades for standing up for ourselves. It's one of those. Yeah. What you focus on will determine your life. How you choose to handle the things that come at you will determine whether or not you get through this life with some semblance of happiness. Time Passages makes an unusual comment. Your body listens. Let's see here. Your body listens to what you tell it. Your cells spin. When you are depressed, it lowers the spin. You know, honestly, I know so little about the actual mechanisms behind what goes on in the body and in the mind when you get depressed. What I do know is this: that one of the most beautiful things in the world is the ability to break oneself out of that death spiral kind of depression spin that we get into. If you cannot break away from that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As you start to, that's an interesting point. Full of Hope says, soon the nation will be in your situation. The whole nation, you're just a front runner. Boy, there's some truth to that. By the way, thank you so much for this channel. It helped me a lot in these past few days. Mind my blues, I am so happy to hear that. I really am. I'm happy to hear that. You start to go over all of the things that they recommend that you do in order to remain happy. For me, pursuing passions became my get out of jail free card, so to speak. When I found myself in prison in 2016 with an end of life diagnosis and a divorce papers sitting on my desk waiting to be signed, every single thing that I owned in life gone, and about $85,000 in the hole, right? Fees and fines and things like that. So I'm 85K in the hole. I've got nothing. I don't have a home to go home to anymore. I have absolutely nothing. I will be leaving federal prison at the age of 50 to go to a halfway house and start my life from scratch. And before I met Q, I just figured that I would go back out. The same thing would happen. I would go back to prison, and that time I would get life. And I started thinking about, well, when I come in next time, I got to make sure that I smuggle in. I literally started having the mindset of, what can I do to set myself up for a much better retirement in federal prison? I had come to the conclusion that the end of my life was going to be me laying in a prison cell, that in spite of the fact that I was about to be let out of the freaking prison 4 or 5 years down the road, I had already come to the conclusion that there was no way I could live in this world without heroin every single day of my life. And that meant I was going to go back. So when I went back the next time, I was going to make sure that I smuggled in enough stuff to really get myself set up, because this was going to be it. This was the retirement home for the kind of drug addict that I was, right? This was the retirement community for people who rob banks to get heroin, right? You want to see the retirement home for bank robbers? It's called federal prison, and it sucks. But that is where I was, because I didn't understand the concept of trying to be happy. I didn't. It's a concept that I had never learned at any point in my life. So I tried to use chemicals to be happy. And here I am. I'm in prison. I think I'm going to be dead within 5 years. And all of these things are happening. And I started to talk to a guy one day about what was going on in his life. And he told me some stuff. And I don't know. We talked for about 15, 20 minutes. And when I was done, he said to me, I can't tell you how much better I feel right now than I did before we started talking. And I said, wow, that's cool. You know, if you are counting on others in Mad Max, good luck with that. Okay. Sometimes your body screams for rest. Boy, there's some truth to that. Boy, is there some truth to that. So this individual says, you know, I can't begin to thank you. You know, this really helped. And I agreed to meet with him the following day. To make a long story short, I spent about 2 or 3 days really thinking about this guy, what was going on in his life, where he was going. The guy was getting out of prison in 2 years. He had done a very, very short sentence for a pretty petty crime in the federal system. He was a guy that had been making fake $100 bills on a really good color copier and got caught with a couple of $1 million in fake $100 bills and got a short sentence for it. Doesn't carry much time. But I worked with him for a couple of days. I didn't realize I was working with him. I was just talking with him. But something weird happened when I left. Every time I walked away from that table, I realized that for about an hour, I didn't think about Are we disagreeing in the comment section? Goosebump says our brains lie to us, trying to suck us back into old patterns. They do. I found for me that the key to happiness was love. And it was love bestowed on people that I hadn't met. It was love at every single opportunity that I had to give it away, as opposed to going the hate route, which I had spent my whole life doing. Right? Normally, when this guy came up and started talking about all of the things that were going on in his life and all of the bad stuff that was happening, I could have hit him with a, you know what, dude, they just told me I'm going to be dead. I got a dead spot on my head that's in my brain that's getting bigger and eating me alive, and I'm not going to know who I am in about 2 years. You think I want to hear about all of the problems you got going on in your life? That's who I had been for 46 years. But Q had talked me into this concept of, if I used to do it in the past, I shouldn't do it now. And if I had never done it in the... John Doe, what does that mean? Can you tell me what that means? I'm sorry, but I don't... Does that mean you want to go get loaded? I know we got a big, long lag, but I want to talk about this. I am a power of one. I will not be knocked down by anyone. Well done, Annette. You can be a power of one. No, that does not mean that you're going to use. Then what are we doing? We're worshiping Satan. What are we doing on the dark side? Are we, is this a reference to the Force? What are we talking about, John Doe? Tell me, because that's one of those comments that leaves a captain of the lifeboat. He's talking about his past. Oh. Well, everyone makes those decisions. If you want to go back to your past, it's completely there for you. It's never going to go anywhere. Your past is going to be there. I'm hopping in on conversations that are 30 seconds behind, and but you know what? There's definitely, and here's, this is a perfect example. Really is an absolutely perfect example. We want you to come here and we want you to open up and we want you to tell us what's going on and what all of the things that are happening in your life. But when we start to, this is an opportunity for everybody to kind of to pull up. But I am not alone. All right, Annette, I get it. Trust me, I get it, Annette. And you know what? If you're happy with who you are and you're comfortable with who you are, then everything else in life is going to fall into place anyway. It's the truth. Look, I'm not a whole lot healthier now. Like, what about me besides my shiny piercings could possibly make it where they just listen to me complain about my night terrors and mood? I don't know who they are, Scoob, but there are people who are quite willing to listen to you for no other reason other than the fact that they too have chosen this sort of love route. You know, the name of the video is Choose Happiness. It could be Choose Love just as easily. What I found from being in federal prison when all of this bullshit happened to me, right? What I found more than anything was that there was this negativity that went out in all directions from everybody in there, right? There was so much hate around me that it was destroying me. If you listen to anything come out of my mouth from 2014 to 2016, I probably didn't say anything positive. I'm not kidding you. My life revolved around my brain is screwed up. I got screwed over by my ex. I just had a checklist of things to bitch about. And there was about 5 of them. And I rotated through. Can you mention a channel I like to watch? She helps deal with all the inner crap and she's one of us. Absolutely, you can, Annette. I'm definitely not threatened by any channel that can help anyone. If they get bigger than us, fantastic. If they're huge, fantastic. The more people that anyone can help with a channel that helps people, please. If it's a channel that is in tune with what we do, feel free. Feel free. It's this is a tough subject. You are not your past. Your brain and other people will try to pull you back. But however you feel, hold on, I like this. But however you feel, you are not the old person. You have made progress. You are here. That's progress. T-Gun, great comment. Absolutely a great comment. When you think about helping others, there's less time to dwell on the negative aspects of your life. Don't neglect yourself, though. It's all a balance, Daniel, son. Very well done, Kelly. And you know what? I got that way out of balance. KP Nordic. You know what's really bizarre? Whoa, this is so bizarre. KP Nordic. I was looking at a video yesterday for research reasons, and I saw your name. And I thought, wonder what's going on. Swear to you, like this is in the last 7 hours. That's downright bizarre. So good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the boat. Good to have you back. No, where we find ourselves, people. It's what a great comment that was just made. What happened to me in federal prison was exactly that. I had the ability for the first time since my diagnosis to stop thinking about my problems, because I had the problems of somebody else. Now, is that healthy? Look, it's not what I'm talking about. We'll skip all of the theoretical and all of the opinion and all of this. Was the first glimmer in my life that there was a way to feel good. There was a way to derive pleasure in life that did not require a chemical. I didn't take any money out of my pocket. I didn't have to do anything. I sat down and listened to somebody talk to me about what was going on in their life. And in a couple of situations, I was able to say, have you thought about maybe doing this? But for the most part, all I did was listen. I listened to this person. In a sea of hate, and people that were saying F this and F that and, racial slurs and hate and just hate. In the middle of all of that, there was somebody to say to this guy, I'll listen to you. What's going on in your life? And as I said earlier, he said to me, I don't know how to thank you, man. I really feel so much better. And he said all of these incredible things. And at the end of it, I thought to myself, this person's thanking me, but I know I got more out of that than they did. That was the first of a string of situations where I found myself willing to listen to the problems of somebody else. And then I started to come to realize just how much most of those problems were caused by drugs, either earlier in life or currently or whatever. And so I started the little group in prison, which started out with about 3 or 4 people sitting on a prison yard. And it got to a point where we had about 120 people in the group, and which was huge for prison. And the more I realized that the reason I was so miserable in life is because I took my problems, I got rid of everything else in life. The fact that I still had family that loved me, the fact that I was awake. Seriously, every day that you're on this planet, you got an opportunity. But I wasn't living that way. I was living the exact opposite way. I hated getting up in the morning. It was just every time the sun came up, it was just a reminder that I was a piece of shit in federal prison that couldn't get his life together ever. It was one of those moments that I realized that the reason I was miserable was because I concentrated on being freaking miserable 365 days in a row, right? And I had been doing that for decades. My entire focus of my entire life was just how miserable I was. I would get up in the morning and I would start going through a checklist of why I was miserable. Let's see. I'm in federal prison. Wow, that sucks. My wife just filed for divorce. Yeah, that one sucks. And just tick right down the list. You know what I did when I was done? I'd start at the top and I'd walk around pissed off all day long. And then, you go and see a counselor and you say, you know what? I just can't seem to get happy. I wonder why. I literally had a checklist. That woman's a bitch, right? I would go through the divorce thing because I was huge, right? How dare she send me a Dear Tommy letter when I'm in the shoe after getting stabbed, right? I'm just going down the list. You have to break the pity me drama cycle and start living a new life. Well, for me, KP Nordic, that's exactly what had to happen. And I don't know, I don't even know that it was pity, because for me, it was anger, right? I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I wanted the world to know that my life sucked, but I don't think I was feeling bad for myself, honestly. I think I was just angry. And I was very angry at people who seemed to have happiness in their life, people who seemed to not care about where they were. Like, I would look at people in prison, and I remember a close friend in there who used to say to me, prison is only hard on the intelligent. It was one of his favorite expressions. He said, the guys that are just dumb as a brick go in there and they're happy as hell. It's like summer camp for bad people. But if you're a thinker and you realize that there's things going on in the world that you have nothing to do anymore. Scoob, I've been in similar situations in the past. I was also homeless and on and off for 5 years and felt totally alone. Sometimes life can really be harsh, but please hang in there, hon. Thank you, ZW. It's a beautiful comment. It really is. It's a beautiful comment. So for me, when I stopped going down that friggin' checklist, when I stopped ticking off one after another, here's what's bothering me. Tick, 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 tick. Here's why I suck. Here's why my life sucks. Here's why this person sucks, right? Here's why. Right down the list. Tommy Bird, good to see you, brother. Hey, you know what, man? I understand old age, brother. I'm not going to give you any lip about it. You can always catch the replay. We will be here in living color. But when I stopped going down that checklist, I started going in the opposite direction. In 2016, I had watched 6 people be carried out of federal prison already dead, right? Where I was there, it was in my unit, or it was in the unit next to me, or I knew the person in some way. I mean, I saw a lot more people than that die. We had 5 go out in 1 week at the FCI in Victorville. There was a guy that died from a heart attack. There were 2 people that died smoking K2. One guy hung himself. A guy named Pham hung himself. Anyway, it was a really, really bad run. But in 2016, I had already seen some really, really heavy, kind of ugly stuff. We have to change our checklist. Then we need some gratitude up in here. I'm alive. I'm grateful. Well done, Annette. Well done, Annette. And that's really where I got to. See, I started getting up in the morning, and instead of starting down that road, that shit road that I do every single day, I started going down the list of the reasons that I had to be grateful. There were people out there that still cared about me. God had thrown this guy in my path that was willing to try to help me get sober, really for no apparent reason. And it took a long time to really believe that there was no apparent reason. I just kept looking. For some, I don't know. Like he had to have some ulterior motive, but he really did just want to help me. And it made so little sense to me at the time, but it's kind of what I do now. And it is a very large part of why I am happy. For me, Scooby, do you see the message from Lisa K? Scooby, you see that? I hope you saw that. If not, I will reach out afterwards and make sure that you get that information. I have no caffeine right now, says V, but I'm going back to sleep after my live stream is over. Must be nice. Keep telling yourself the same thing and your cells listen. Do the opposite. Alchemy. I like it. I mean, we really do have to change our outlook on life. You can't keep. Full of Hope says, I know you need to reach out. I'm sorry, I went really quick. For help locally, please. And you know what? There are people out there ready to help. There are. I promise you there are. That's the way it works. Scooby, you still need to reach out. She's right. Get some assistance. Get some help. Time Passages says most of the planet is suffering from Stockholm syndrome. You're not alone. Wow. Interesting. I think there's some truth to that. Well, Scoob, here's the thing. Most places won't help me. That means that there are places that will help you. I'm going to tell you the story of Alex Canali again, because I think it's absolutely pertinent to what's going on right now. I met Alex Canali in prison. He's on the boat. You see him down here as Jeffrey Canali. In prison, we called him Alex, but he's the one that busted my elbow up. But when he got out of prison for murder, a murder, by the way, that was an accident. He swung a pool cue at somebody in a bar fight, and the pool cue hit someone else, and it ended up killing that person. And he took complete responsibility. He pled guilty at his arraignment. When the judge said, that's not how it works, you don't understand, he said, oh, I did this. I feel He wanted whatever justice was going to come. He felt incredibly guilty. Jeff is an amazing person that made a mistake, split-second mistake. But when he got out of prison, you think people were really fired up to hire a guy that got life in prison for murder? And I remember Jeffrey coming over to my house and Papa Scoville saying to him, giving him some advice about just not quitting, just keep going from one to the other. And he did that. I mean, he literally didn't stop. The number of places that turned him down. Okay, Scoob, not only am I going to find you help, but I am going to rip you a new one on this channel after I have, because I promise you there's help out there. I will put you in contact when I get off of the boat. I have a 7 o'clock call a 6 o'clock call that I have to do. No, I will reach out to you as soon as I get off the boat, Scoob. So stick by. I'm going to reach out to you as soon as I get off. All right, peeps. What it's going to come down to in this quest for happiness is that every single thing that happens in our body, whether you believe it or not, you know what? Kelly Gerling says The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, a really great resource. Just try it for a week and see the results. There's a lot of truth to this. That was a great piece of work. That is a great piece of work, to be sure. Hey, Scoob, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to help you. But like jumping off a bridge and even talk like that, we're going to stop with all of that crap, right? I'll help. We're going to, yeah, full of hope. All right, peeps. Really? You can get that in a PDF free online, Kelly? I had no idea. Sorry. Yeah, Mark, I'm with you. We can definitely choose to be happy once we understand how to let go of our materialism and understand no such thing as fair in life. Boy, you know what? Didn't we do a good show on fair? There's a show out there I did called Fair, Not Fair, something like that. All right, people. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. You just saw a squirrel. She doesn't want to hang out in the basket. Let's see if we can get her one for a pose. Right. No, she's not having it. All right. That's a cat in a basket. That's a cat out of a basket. There you go. Why don't you just hang up for me, squirrel? Maybe you could. This is how we stop the lifeboat. Cat. Please.